Now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret societies.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the Commonwealth.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Trump calls today Liberation Day. I'm not so sure about that. Let's talk about it. Today's the day he's going to put tariffs on just about everything coming into this country. Just about everything. From our friends, by the way, not really putting any tariffs on Russia. He's got minimal tariffs on China. But, Canada, Mexico, Europe, tariffs. You want to buy a European car, you better go buy it now. You want to buy an American car, you better go buy it now because the parts go across borders and everything. Trump keeps telling everybody that tariffs are going to be a tax decrease for America. And again, I am not sold that he's going to keep these tariffs in place, but I'm thinking that damage that he's doing is going to be long term. The first quarter of 2024 was the worst quarter for the stock market since it crashed during COVID. Back in the first Trump presidency. You might remember that he likes to point out the first 3 years of his presidency and how great the economy was during the first 3 years of his presidency. He likes to forget about the last year of his presidency, where any gains he had were evaporated and millions of Americans lost their jobs. And 1 million Americans died as a result of his incompetence. And let's be clear here. It was the result of his incompetence that people died and jobs disappeared forever. And if you don't think jobs have disappeared forever, why don't you go talk to somebody in corporate real estate and see how they're doing these days? Because a lot of jobs in corporate real estate disappeared forever. A lot of wealth in corporate real estate disappeared forever, and it ain't ever coming back. And it's a result of his incompetence. And he has been showing himself and the people he's put around him to be even more incompetent in his second term. And the question we should be asking ourselves right now is, what is going to be the end result of all of this turmoil he's putting into our economy and into the world? What is going to be the end result of the lack of protocol when his national security team utilizes an unsecure app and loops in a reporter? What's going to be the result? What happens if there's a crisis in this country, a real crisis, right? Not a manufactured crisis that he's been doing the last couple of months. It's been manufactured crisis after manufactured crisis. What happens if there's a real crisis in America where we need real leadership. Well, we already know he intends to decimate FEMA. Now, if I was a Floridian hearing this, Florida, which has benefited greatly from FEMA, deservedly. I mean, they're getting pummeled by hurricanes. Every year somewhere in Florida, there's a hurricane hitting it, right? It just seems a major one. If I lived in Florida and I was seeing this, I would be very concerned about how my state is going to recover in a hurricane or another natural disaster. I mean, look, it could happen anywhere, right? It happens all over the country. It seems like every state at some point in a 10-year cycle will have a natural disaster that requires FEMA and federal government aid. And as a nation that cares about each other, whether you are red or blue, we want to send that help to those parts of the country. He's decimating that. So what if there's a natural disaster this summer and we don't have the people? No, I'm not even talking about the bean counters on the internet. I know there's two FEMAs. I know that there's one FEMA that shows up during the emergency and they're great and they're handing out blankets and water and food and finding places for people to stay and maybe even putting up tents if needed. And then there's the FEMA that comes later that does all the math. He's cutting all of FEMA. Like, the guys that show up and give you bottled water, give you dry ice, give you food if you need it, they're gone. I mean, he spread a lie during the campaign that Biden was trying to get people to give up their FEMA requests for aid for $650. But what people were actually being given was $650 for immediate needs because they'd lost everything in their house. They needed to buy toothpaste. He's giving it up now completely. You won't even get that. You won't get the people there, and you won't get the other side of it either. He's going to turn it into some sort of state block grant. How's that worked out for you in the past? Not well. Trust me, it hasn't. But what happens if there's a real crisis? What if there's another COVID or another pandemic of any kind? You trust RFK Jr. to figure that out? You trust this crew of misfits to figure that out? You better hope there's some checks and balances coming real soon or before something hurts you. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Those are my socials. You could find me there. I hope you're watching me on YouTube right now. I hope that you are. And if you are, I hope you're clicking subscribe right now and subscribing. And if you like what you see here, I hope you're sharing it with your friends. And of course, the Aggressive Progressive audio version podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. Watch me on News Nation. I'm on all the time. And check me out. Follow me on social. I usually post. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do. And I post a lot of my appearances right here on my YouTube channel. So, I don't believe that tariffs are going to liberate us. And I kind of see what he's trying to do here. He's trying to say that because we're going to get this revenue from tariffs, which, by the way, we pay, tariffs are a tax, right? They are a tax. You will pay it. Because we're going to get this revenue from tariffs, he's going to use that as motivation for deeper tax cuts when he tries to extend the Trump tax cuts, right? That's going to be his cry, right? His clarion cry that, I'm raising all this revenue from tariffs, which, by the way, he won't be raising what he thinks he's going to raise. I think what happens with tariffs is what has happened before when the United States goes into trade wars. The economy sinks. And I hope, look, what's the best case scenario, right? The best case scenario right now is that the European Union and Canada and Mexico, come up with some sort of concession or even perceived concession, and Trump could claim victory and we could all walk away and there's no tariffs and no trade war and no ensuing, depression, which, breadline type depression. I'm not talking like, 2008 where, the stock market crashed and everybody freaked out and, it was better in a year. I'm talking 1930 breadline type depression. I am talking about, mass unemployment in the United States of America kind of depression, which is possible. And I'm not rooting for that. I actually hope that by the time you hear this, because I'm pre-taping this, right? He could have changed his mind by now, right? The problem in the age of Trump, if you're a broadcaster who pre-tapes, you really can't pre-tape. It's the guy changes, there's so much news coming at you all the time. It's never ending. So by the time you hear this, at noon, so a lot of people are going to hear this on the radio around noon. He might have changed his mind. He might have changed course on tariffs already. Oh, the EU came up with a plan to stop terrorism, and I'm with them. And yay! Okay, yay, Donald, you won. No tariffs. We're not going to have a trade war and have a depression. I hope that happens. I really do. I hope it happens. I hope they give him something that he could say, "Here's my victory," and that's the end of it. Because if these tariffs are still in place, a month from now, I worry about what's going to happen in this country. I also worry that, yesterday I talked about, what would the reserve currency be? The reserve currency would be the euro, right? I just cashed in. I just got some euros for a family member who's going to Europe, and yeah, they're worth more. I can see that happening. I can see the euro becoming the world reserve currency if this nonsense keeps up. And that would be bad for the American dollar. And everybody says, well, everybody wants to trade here. We're the gold standard of the world. We are right now. But just because we are right now doesn't mean we will always be. Right? I get it. We are a consumer-driven economy like nowhere else in the world. I mean, you visit your friends. You ever go to a foreign country? You have any friends? Like, I've got friends who lived here who are from Europe, and they live a much more Spartan life than we do. I mean, I have boxes in my basement that I moved into my old house. And then when I moved from the old house, I brought them with me to the new house. They were never opened in either house. Now, I would like to get rid of them, but I am getting a veto from my wife. So we're the kind of people that have a lot of stuff. George Carlin did a whole routine about stuff. I encourage you to look it up. We are that country. We buy and buy and buy and buy. But are we going to buy and buy and buy and buy if it costs us 25% more and our wages don't go up 25%? I mean, if wages go up 25%, great. Taxes get reduced 25%, great. But that doesn't seem to be the plan. I don't see wages going up, real income going up in this country. I see inflation. And I see if we had 25% inflation, that would be the end of us all. We would not be having a consumer-driven economy. And again, like I keep saying, just because we have always been this economic superpower, we've been, at least not always, at least for the last 150 years or so, this economic superpower doesn't mean we will always be that. I think the Romans thought they would never fall. And then they elected I don't know how they did it there. I mean, they chose, or they birthed, they inherited some bad leadership. And that bad leadership brought them down. And I hope that's not what's happening here. But it sure as hell looks like it is right now. And we should all be worried about that. It's troubling. And again, I keep hoping for checks and balances to emerge. I think they will. But they're not here yet. We'll see what happens. I'm pre-recording this before the results of Tuesday night's election, so I can't even opine on that, but I will tomorrow. So, all right, I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth, question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again real soon to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for joining me on the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.